The first thing that Get rid of that. The first thing that PhDs discover by the end of their PhD is that it is not graceful in any sense of the word. Like, when you think about doing a PhD, at least I did, I was like, oh, you'll be sat there in the lab and you'll be working away and there'll be like a backlit kind of like scene, and all of a sudden you'll have that eureka moment and you'll be like, this is what I've been waiting for. And then you'll report it to the world and the world will be like, oh my God, this person is amazing. When in fact, it is a tumble. It is a fight. You scrabble through the scratchy bushes just to kind of get through the end of another day. And it is not graceful at all. There is a slight romanticism that I think society has built up around academia, and the romanticism is that the eureka moment happens to all of us, and that there's a clear and logical kind of step at every point of your PhD where you go, yes, that is the clear path for me to take, when in fact it is not any of that. It is just survival. A lot of the time it's just about getting through that day, getting through that experiment, surviving another failure. And a lot of people, who do a PhD get to the end and it doesn't feel like you've earned a PhD because of this romantic idea that you're meant to, be awesome at the end, and you're just you, but a little bit more tired, definitely poorer than other people around you who chose a different career path. You're definitely smarter and you definitely have earned your PhD, but it doesn't feel like you have. This video is brought to you by my newsletter. Go check it out at andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter. The link is in the description. When you sign up, you'll get 5 emails over about 2 weeks. Everything from the tools I use, the TEDx talk that I gave, and the podcasts I've been on, and more. It's exclusive content only available on that free newsletter, so go check it out. The second thing I think a lot of PhDs realize when they get to the end of their PhD is their supervisor is making it up as they go along as well. They are applying for grants that they don't think they'll get, for money that will probably not even be useful for the entire grant. They are always worried about the future, but they kind of, when you first start, you kind of think that they're this kind of perfect body of knowledge that will just point you in the direction every time. They're like the ultimate academic compass. And then as you kind of go through, you realize that they're making it up too. But there is an important caveat. Their experience in the early days of your PhD are much better tuned than yours. So they understand what you need to do. They understand the foundations you need to lay. So in the early stages of a PhD, a supervisor does know more and is making it up as they go along, but they've got a lot more experience to draw from to make the right decision. Their compass is better calibrated. Yours is all over the place. Yours is just pointing randomly and it's probably spinning erratically because you're so anxious. But as you get through, and there's a point where your knowledge of a particular very narrow field surpasses that of your supervisor, and that's when you need to follow your compass. That's when your supervisor is just sort of like sat at the back of the boat and is going, yes, I think we're heading the right direction, and you're up the front with your new academic compass that's been calibrated over a few years, and you're like, this is definitely the way, I'm heading off this way. You don't know where you're going, but you get a much better kind of sixth sense from when you make it up. And one of my supervisors actually talked about that. He was like, read enough until you start kind of getting that sixth sense, until you start understanding where the gaps are, where you start trying to kind of weave together different fields to form your own ideas. And I think it's very true. So yes, you realize your supervisor is making it up as you go along. And then once you end up supervising students, I was a co-supervisor, you realize that when they come to you with problems, yes, your compass is well calibrated, but you're also making it up too. At the end of a PhD, all PhDs realize that anything is learnable. If it's a thing that someone has made, created, done, you can learn it too. And that's one thing I love about a PhD, is that it teaches you how to learn a field very quickly. It enables you to kind of break down a big complex subject into smaller things so you can kind of digest it quickly. And that soft skill has massive implications for the rest of your life. And I don't think there's anything that I can't learn at the moment. It's about motivation for learning, which is the biggest thing. Like, I see something, I go, that's cool, and I go, I'll go learn it. I did coding, portrait, sewing, knitting, all of these weird hobbies where I'm like, that's kind of cool. And then I go, where can I go learn that? And I know that I can do it. And any subject I can break down, like I said, it's just about motivation at that point. And towards the end of a PhD, you do feel very proud of yourself for being able to be at the head of a scientific or research field and, got there on your own for the large part of it. That's something to be proud of. So yes, you can learn anything. A PhD certainly teaches you that. At the end of a PhD, every PhD student realizes that politics plays a much bigger role than it should, or you really expect it to. So, take a supervisor who's collaborating. So they kind of create this little publishing mafia between them, and they can invite other people into the inner circle and their names get put on papers too. But if you annoy the boss of the paper mafia, they'll kick you out at any moment and then you're out on your own. This also happens with international collaborations, and also it is very political based on what is popular at the time to research. Like, solar technology was pretty hot when I was doing my PhD and postdoc, so there was a fair amount of money around if you were saying, I'm going to use this for solar technology or for making solar cells more efficient. And yes, politics just goes through everything. Even though the scientific method should be absolutely devoid of any personal opinion, any politics, it is absolutely intertwined, far deeper than it should be. So it should be absolutely agnostic to all of these different political positionings, all of these decisions, but it is not. So you learn how to weave and navigate the politics, and it's not necessarily healthy to emulate the worst stuff that you've seen, but it definitely takes a lot to kind of understand and go, okay, this is how it's best to navigate it. And that's why a lot of supervisors, I think, become assholes, is because one of the easiest ways to navigate politics is to be the alpha asshole in a research group, because it just works out better for them, which is horrible to say. But yes, at the end of a PhD, you get there and you're like, all right, politics. Am I willing to do all of this political stuff for the next step in my career? That's up to you. Towards the end of a PhD, you also realize how resilient you really are. When you get to the end of a PhD, you kind of reflect on the ups and the downs. The moment I broke a $20,000 piece of equipment, the moment where my supervisor sent me for an intervention that I felt like I didn't need, but the moment where my solar cell worked for the first time, like, it is up and down and up. Like, the first time my solar cell ever worked, this was an aqueous-based solar cell. I was making a solar paint. Like, it was incredible. I remember it was late at night. I was one of the last in the lab because I'd booked time on this evaporation equipment to put my aluminium electrode on top. I was the last one of the day. It was probably 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock before I'd even kind of analyzed the results. And I was like, oh my God, it's worked. I cannot believe it. I went home. I was so excited. And those ups and downs really take a huge toll on your mental health. There's no doubt about it. And you kind of feel like a little bit of an addict towards the end because it's so up and down and up and down. You kind of are willing to push through the rubbish bits until you get another up, and you're up and you're always seeking that next high from the next result. So it can certainly be addictive, and the ups and downs, yes, it takes a toll, but you got there, you got to the end, and I think it certainly is a good moment to reflect on everything you've been through. And every PhD student realizes that they are far more resilient than they thought they were when they went in. That's kind of a good one, hey? So there we have it. That's what every single PhD student finds out by the end of their PhD. Let me know in the comments what you would add to that. And also go check out academiainsider.com. That is my project where I have my ebook, The Ultimate Academic Writing Toolkit, that's been getting loads of reviews. Thank you for reading it. And I really hope that it's being received in the helpful manner that I intended it to be. So yes, thank you so much. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.